Story 1. The Haunted Taxi Ride. It was a bitterly cold winter night in 2008, and the wind seemed to cut through every layer of clothing like tiny shards of glass. Jack stood on the second floor of Heathrow Airport, watching as his girlfriend Emma disappeared into the security checkpoint. Their long-distance relationship had lasted 2 years, and every goodbye felt like a small death, chipping away at his heart. Her last words before walking away echoed in his mind, "Take care of yourself. I'll miss you." Jack could only nod, his throat too tight to respond. He stayed there, staring at the spot where she had vanished, even as the crowd swirled around him. The icy wind jolted him back to reality. He tightened his scarf, grabbed his luggage and made his way to the taxi stand. Jack squinted through his glasses, searching for a taxi with its red available sign glowing in the misty darkness. London's winter nights had a way of swallowing sound and light, leaving the world cold and eerily quiet. Finally, a black cab with its light on rolled toward him. Jack walked to the back door ready to get in. But as he opened the door, he froze. A young woman was sitting in the back seat. Her long hair fell over her face, and her shoulders shook slightly as if she were sobbing. Her thin dress clung to her, completely inappropriate for the freezing weather. Jack hesitated. "Excuse me, is this taxi taken?" he asked, leaning in slightly. The driver rolled down his window and looked at him in confusion. "No mate, it's empty." "Hop in," the driver said, gesturing toward the seat. Jack frowned and glanced at the girl again. She hadn't moved a muscle, as if she hadn't heard anything. "But there's a woman in the back seat," he said, his voice trailing off. The driver turned his head to look at the back seat through the rearview mirror, his face momentarily blank. Then he shrugged. "I don't see anyone, mate. Just get in." Uneasy but unwilling to argue, Jack climbed into the front passenger seat. The cab pulled away from the airport and silence filled the car. The heater hummed softly, but Jack couldn't shake the chill that had settled in his bones. He glanced over his shoulder. The girl was still there, her head bowed low, her hair obscuring her face. Her shoulders moved slightly as if she were crying harder now. Jack turned back to the driver. "Where is she going? Are we heading the same way?" The driver's grip on the steering wheel tightened, and he didn't answer immediately. After a long pause, he said, "There's no one back there, mate." Jack's stomach dropped. He whipped his head around again and the girl was still there. This time, her head moved slightly, tilting upward. For a brief moment, he thought he saw something pale, a sliver of a face, through her curtain of hair. "I'm not imagining this," Jack muttered under his breath. The driver suddenly slammed on the brakes, jerking the car to a stop by the roadside. Without a word, he grabbed his phone and got out of the cab, pacing a few feet away as he made a call. Jack rolled down the window and strained to hear him. The driver's voice was low but trembling. "I can't do this shift tonight. Someone needs to come and get the car. No questions. Just do it." Jack's skin prickled. He stepped out of the car, his breaths coming in quick puffs of steam. "What's going on?" he asked. The driver avoided his gaze. "You need to find another ride. Just trust me." Jack backed away from the cab as fast as he could. His heart pounded as he flagged down another taxi. As the new cab drove away, he glanced back at the first one, his unease growing. The girl was gone. For days, Jack couldn't shake the memory of that night. Determined to make sense of it, he started researching unusual incidents involving Heathrow taxis. What he found left him frozen in his chair. 5 years earlier, a young woman had gone missing after taking a taxi from Heathrow Airport. Her last known location was near the same stretch of road where Jack's cab had stopped. The driver at the time claimed his back seat had been empty, but when the car was found days later, the back seat was soaked with water. Jack's pulse quickened as he read further. Some said she had been murdered. Others believed she had been searching for something, or someone. But no one could explain the icy puddles that always appeared wherever her presence was felt. Story 2: The Final Promise. The terminal at New York's JFK Airport was filled with muted murmurs as passengers prepared for the early morning flight to London. Flight attendant Erin adjusted her scarf and hurried to the gate. The chill of winter seemed to seep into every corner of the terminal, an unshakable heaviness that hung in the air. Erin noticed a middle-aged woman sitting alone near the boarding area. She was dressed in a worn black coat and clutched a small carry-on bag to her chest. Her face was pale, her expression distant. Something about her made Erin pause, but before she could think more about it, the boarding announcement crackled through the speakers. Once the flight was airborne, Erin began her rounds through the economy cabin. Most passengers were quiet, either dozing off or engrossed in their books and screens. When Erin reached the middle-aged woman's row, she noticed her meal tray was untouched. "Ma'am, would you like anything to eat or drink?" Erin asked softly. The woman looked up, her tired eyes meeting Erin's. "No, thank you," she said in a hoarse whisper. Erin hesitated. A strange thought bubbled up in her mind as if it had been placed there. "Your husband asked us to make sure you ate something," she said, offering a warm smile. The woman froze. "My husband?" she repeated, her voice barely audible. "Yes, he said you might not feel like eating but asked us to take care of you," Erin said, holding out a freshly prepared meal tray. The woman's hand trembled as she took the tray. Tears welled up in her eyes. "My husband, he passed away. I'm bringing his body back home. His casket is in the cargo hold." For the rest of the flight, Erin couldn't focus. She replayed the conversation over and over in her head. Why had she said that? And why had it felt so natural, like it wasn't even her own thought? Later, while passing the rear of the cabin, she heard a faint whisper, "Take care of her." She spun around, but no one was there. When the plane landed in London, Erin waited until the passengers had disembarked before heading to the cargo hold. She asked the ground crew to confirm the manifest. Sure enough, there was a casket bearing the woman's husband's name. Erin's breath hitched as she stared at it. The whispered words replayed in her mind, and the cold air around the casket seemed to settle into her bones. That night, as Erin prepared for bed, a soft knock echoed from her front door. She hesitated before opening it, but no one was there. She glanced down and saw a folded napkin on the ground. Picking it up, she unfolded it to reveal a single word written in shaky handwriting. "Thank you." Erin froze. A faint smell of airplane food lingered in the air, and she swore she could hear the distant hum of an engine fading into silence. Thank you for watching these spine-chilling stories. Which one gave you the biggest goosebumps, the haunted taxi or the ghostly flight? Let us know in the comments below. And here's a fun question for you. If you found yourself in a haunted situation like these, would you stay and try to uncover the truth, or would you run as fast as you could? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life horror stories. See you in the next one, if you dare.